Feels kind of mad. It's a world that's very new to me, everything about it actually, and I just saw the film like 3 days ago and it was so strange, just the initial seeing my face on a screen. That was a strange thing to kind of get over at first, but it was exciting. Wow. So I had an involvement with the role of Eponine. I'd played it on the West End for a year, and I played it at the O2 Arena at the 25th anniversary, and so I had an involvement with the role. But then I had my first audition for Tom Hooper, and then that sort of following was a 15-week vigorous audition process, in and out, and really sort of put through my paces, screen testing, singing with Eddie and Amanda. And I think it was, I really had to kind of prove that I could translate this role from stage onto screen. And it was a tough one. Wow, when I finally got the role, actually, I was on stage, up playing Nancy and Oliver, and Cameron McIntosh, the producer, walked on stage and announced to a live audience that I was going to be playing the role of Eponine. So I was kind of, speechless, kind of in such shock. And sometimes I actually have to go and watch that video because it just seems like such a dream. It was a mad moment of my life. Eponine, I think, obviously she's this streetwise, tough sort of kid, the daughter of the Thénardiers, and what I loved about the film is the way they incorporated the young Eponine, and you see kind of her being involved in her father's schemes, but they're kind of, lighter, nicking the odd wallet here and there, charging someone extra for a room. And then when the Thénardiers fall into poverty, it's interesting to see how kind of everything gets more extreme. So she's actually essentially a criminal. She turns into a criminal. She is a watchdog for the law, and it kind of, her life becomes a lot darker. So she falls into a world that shows her no love, into extreme poverty. And I think what's beautiful is her escapism is this one young, beautiful student boy. And I think seeing the effect that has on her, this kind of, feisty, fiery kid who's kind of not afraid of anything. She's actually fearless, I'd say, until she's kind of struck by the emotion of love. And I don't think she knows what love is. I don't think love is something that she's talked about or thought about. It just kind of leaves her breathless, and I love that about her. I think unrequited love is this thing that we've all been through or going through, or your best friend's going through it. So something you can feel, you can feel someone's pain when they're going through that. And so that's why I think she's such a relatable character. And I think playing opposite Eddie Redmayne is just a dream. I remember when I was auditioning for the role, his face was everywhere because he was doing my work with Marilyn. I remember being like, that could be my Marius. And Eddie brings such a beautiful kind of realism to Marius. He's this real man, I think he worked so hard at finding all the details from the book, and when he, for instance, when he sings A Heart Full of Love, he's nervous. He's actually, and he kind of stutters, and it's so real that I feel like, it can be hard with the Marius-Eponine relationship, because it's like, why does he just ignore Eponine? But he's so enraptured by this beautiful Cosette, that he's kind of just like, oh, she's amazing. He doesn't realise that she's just like, you're the best thing in my life. Why don't you see that? I think to play opposite him is a dream. Wow, On My Own was the best day of my life. It was also the coldest day of my life, but it was the best. I think for me, it's like these songs are so iconic. And so to sing a song like On My Own, there's been so many wonderful interpretations of this song. It's scary because you're like, you want to do the character justice. But I think being able to sing it live in this way, the benefit of that was that you were allowed to be so intimate in a way that you can't on the stage. You can bring it right down, almost whisper these words. Like, it's so freeing being able to sing it live, and it brought such an exciting feeling to the process, because you felt you were creating something more unique. He is the most intelligent man I've ever met. His eye for detail is exquisite, and I found that, you know, there's on stage there's details in the show that work because it's you know, it's heightened, but with a film, you know, things need to be a lot more specific. You can't kind of float over details, and what he's incredible at is, like I said, this eye for detail, and he's so literary and so sort of, he had such an amazing knowledge of the book and the material that we had so many conversations about how to incorporate both of these worlds to create something unique. And I feel like watching the film, I just was like, wow, I was even more in awe of him if possible. Seeing the movie, I don't come on, me and Eddie were sat next to each other in the cinema. We don't actually come on stage for the first half of the film, so we could sit back and go, wow, that's Hugh Jackman, absolutely, like, giving the most incredible performance I've ever seen. And then there's Anne Hathaway, like, absolutely breaking my heart, and Russell Crowe and all these incredible, like, actors, and you could really sit back and appreciate it. As, like, as fans of Les Mis, we could sit back and then halfway through we were like, oh, we were just like pinching each other like, no, I can't watch it, because it's so weird, because then you get nervous. Then, you know, so it was a kind of mixed bag of emotions, I think, for me watching it. Half of me was like, wow, but the other half of me was like, oh, it was quite scary. For me, it hovers around the three themes of redemption, love, and hope, and whether that can be, you know, a loss of love or a gaining of hope. And I feel like every character has has a different path of one of these themes. And I think for Eponine, I think that she lives in this world where she doesn't know who good people are. She doesn't know what it is to be a good person. She's never really witnessed that. And so I think seeing Marius as this good soul, doing good things for other people with no benefit to him, I think that he gives her this love that she has for him. It kind of gives her hope. It gives her some kind of happiness, and it's that escapism that we all have. An escapism. As a child, mine was theatre, and I think for her love for Marius is her hope. And in the end, that kind of redeems her. Although her ending is tragic, I think she leaves this earth as a good soul, which I think is a miracle considering her upbringing.